No, I 100% agree with you, Robert. You haven't told me something and it wasn't worth the wait, so I totally agree that it will be. And the way you've described it and kind of what you're detailing, it sounds super interesting just because I don't exactly see anyone else attempting to do that. Where, we're going to try to build somebody or we're going to try to build an application that allows other people to build better applications more natively, easierly, and then get into the app store in a way where so many other people can use it and you don't have to worry about all this, regulatory bullcrap. Speaking of regulatory bullcrap, let's move over to something I know a lot of people in here are curious about, the Doge proposal that ArcBlock is kind of writing up and considering. I know to some extent that's kind of like, with the other government stuff, it's too early to say. But considering that you guys made a post about it, what would you have in mind for Doge? I know you made a thread. Can you break that thread down a little bit more for us? And how could verifiable credentials, DIDs, NFTs, whichever they be, how could self-sovereign identities integrate and upgrade the government, you could say, system?
Yeah. So first of all, I would clarify that this proposal is basically is permissionless, right? So it's we were not just getting invited by Dodge to create this proposal, or and actually we don't need their permission to create a proposal for them, right? So this is basically a movement that permissionless, anybody can participate, anybody can do that, right? The second is actually in the past few years, actually in Seattle, ArcBlock, we are a member of the WTIA, and so this is a organization that consists of a bunch of these IT companies in Seattle area, and now it's actually expanded to Oregon and even Canada. And it's a group of people that we constantly want to think is what we can provide the proposal and what we can influence the government from a technical point of view, that we create some kind of, we use our imagination, we use our technology, create some proposals. And so when the Dodge coming out of the news that they are considering like use the blockchain technology for the government. So this is the first thing, that this is actually not something new. This topic has been discussed in several of the organizations that I worked with again, constantly. People talking about this for many years. Believe me, it's not something new. But in the past, every time whenever people thinking about, hey, I have an idea to use a blockchain to improve the government transparency, efficiency, or we can use the DID for this and there. Usually, eventually, is going to be a voice say, don't think about it, because this is not a technical issue. This is a political issue, right? So once it becomes political issue, there is no way to move forward, right? But this time, I think the Dodge, their movement makes a lot of people exciting. That actually, this kind of big assumption that once it's a political issue, there's even no matter how good your technology is not going to move forward. This kind of assumption has been, no longer exist, right? So that's why we are excited and try to, propose the verifiable credential and the DID related stuff. We think this kind of technology is actually more feasible than a existing public blockchain for government usage, right? So creating this kind of proposal is not just a move by myself or just ArcBlock. We are actually working with DIF, other members in the DIF and other members in the WTIA. We try to create a working group, and this working group could potentially, propose something. It could be valuable to them. Eventually, even the best way, even they can take that for use. Or this is, but eventually it didn't turn out into something. But this is still a very good movement for the like-minded people to work together, right? So I don't know if somebody remember that when the COVID just began, we did something similar, that we participated with a few of the other members with the DIF and try to think about what is the best way for the vaccine, certificate that using DID. And we actually did created one of the similar initiatives that people are proposing things with the idea in a VC to be a better verification of the like vaccine records. It didn't, of course, eventually there's no government agencies take these proposals. But I think during this process uh, we the whole tech industry and the companies who participated in the DID and verifiable credentials actually um, um, improved quite a bit because that's a real user scenarios, right? I believe this kind of Dodge proposal is going to be something similar. And first of all, in the next couple of weeks, and let's just keep brainstorming and build. We're going to create a website that allow all the partners and to kind of submit the proposals and have the discussions on that website. And so everything is going to be done publicly and transparently. And the good news is the whole website, the whole infrastructure is powered by ArcBlocks, and ArcBlock provided the Discuss kit and the integration with all of those. And so this is so this is also very good. And so that's basically take our product to all of those partners in different industries, and this become a platform for us to co-working together. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's sick. I can't wait to see the website drop. If anything, it's somewhat always annoying when I consider it to the point I've heard you say so often that a lot of like the upgrades we're looking for or the tools we're looking for have already been here. It's not necessarily a technological problem, it's a political one. And so it's interesting to see that maybe Doge is able to make some breakthroughs or something like that. And as you pointed out, maybe finally some of these working groups will not just be able to give proposals, but these proposals be heard, be considered, and then maybe implemented to some degree. So that's super bullish. And hopefully in 4 years, we can get something like, I'm sure you guys will be able to get something accomplished to some degree. And I'm interested to see when you say partners submitting onto the web page, are you referencing like some, larger companies or just basically anybody as well? Since the whole Doge thing is like, just free for anyone to submit proposals, will say like myself or anyone in the chat be able to submit proposals on the website too?
So the website is going to be public that anybody can view because there's no secret, right? And of course, anybody can can comment or discuss. And but for the proposal itself, we still want to kind of more carefully craft like a real technical proposals, right? So it's kind of like anybody can participate, but to be able to participate that correctly, uh, there still need some certain of the format, right?
Okay,
Imagine if you have
gotcha.
a great idea, but if you're writing that in a way that is not easy to consume by others, and so this great idea is still going to be vanished. And I believe we invite, so that's why we invite our friends from the DIF and WTIA, and so they have a bunch of talent people who are very good at and understand how to um, what especially understand the real problems to solve this problem. Because if you are the DID and the VC, they're basically like generic problems, right? But you don't know what exactly for some certain government scenarios, you don't really know the requirements, right? So to be able to kind of use technical solutions to solve the problem in the requirement, that's really important.
Gotcha. Yeah, you definitely have to be detailed. I was just watching this interview with Palmer Luckey, the guy behind Anduril, and I think he did Oculus. He made the Oculus VR, and he was just mentioning that sometimes to get technology approved by the government, you have to be super specific, and you have to have like a product already in mind and already kind of know the problem they have. And so it's almost like an elevator pitch. You have to boom, give it to them and say, yes, we have the solution and we're one of the best in the world to provide it. So it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of stuff you have to make sure is correct, or else they're just going to like disregard you. Or quite often they say that's a great idea and then they give someone else the money to go build it, which is kind of, I'm sure, I don't know if you've ever ran into that issue that's almost like off subject, but I was like, that's kind of crazy that they could do that.
Yeah, in the past, for example, when we worked with the WTIA, we proposed a few of those kind of for Washington State, and even went to the hearing, and so it's sometimes you are so surprised. Sometimes it's really surprised that, for example, something that is so obvious for you from technical side, um, but the people in the other industry, it's really hard for them to understand, and they want to they so it's really important to describe this well, so then you can bring enough people on the same page that can support you, because this is a Democrat, right? So you need to bring enough people agree with that. It's not just, hey, I'm brilliant, so just everybody should listen to that. No, it's not going to work in that way. So it's super important to try to convince everybody, right? And also during this kind of conversation, sometimes I'm surprised that something that from my angle, I see this is so obvious and this is, so easy, no brainer that we should take that. But from the other person perspective, they have some question and concerns. And after I understand what they actually looking and what they're thinking, I actually get convinced that, okay, so me as just a developer, a technical person, I didn't really think too deep into the from the other directions. So this conversation usually is actually pretty good, because now you understand the real world problem is not every problem can be solved with a code and algorithm, right? So that's I think this kind of a this kind of back and forth itself is pretty good, right? Yeah, so I don't know what this eventually lead to, but I believe this is at least this is not going to waste the time. This is going to the worst case is the DID and the VC industry. We can create some proposal with a real world problem, and so that move the VC and the DID technology forward. And of course, the best outcome, we wish eventually somebody can pick this up and make this into some kind of real world, scenarios. Yeah.
Definitely. No,
Yeah,
definitely. That's
and also
100%
this
the
is
goal.
I would say this proposal is more on the DID and the VC, not the blockchain. A lot of news is talking about that, people are excited about, say, hey, putting the government on the blockchain. But I believe that if you really want to put the government on the blockchain, there's a lot of problem that what the government really need, what the Dodge really need, is not actually a public blockchain. So none of today's blockchain, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, even ArcBlock, none of these public blockchains are ready for this kind of government use, right? Because a simple thing is blockchain is all about public data. Every transaction is clear in public on the blockchain, so it can be verifiable. But for the government, even though we need data transparency, we need a lot of things be public. Is there still national security? There's still a lot of like counterparties in the world, and terrorist groups. They want to take advantage of those data and potentially pose some threaten because of everything is accessible, right? So that basically means that you cannot put everything on the blockchain. So that need to be find a new technology that allows some certain security, but also allow the public verifiable informations. And so I believe that the DID and the verifiable credentials will be the best technology to be used here, not just the blockchain technology.
Definitely. Yeah. No, what is it? Agree with you. If anything, it was initially the fact that ArcBlock has this other side of it, the verifiable credential, the DID, the SS side aspects that are, interoperable with the blockchain, but don't depend entirely on the blockchain, to where they can be extrapolated from it and still be used for like zero knowledge proof applications or government applications, whichever you need. So that's always made me super bullish that you guys don't just have like one, a functioning blockchain to handle certain things as you put it, boss, the billing and coding stuff, but then you have this other, layer of ArcBlock that's, built according to W3C standards, that in the event that, we really do need it to solve certain issues, it's not a public blockchain we're needing to solve these issues. But I remember you saying in an old video what a lot of these issues, or what a lot of these problems need, or the solution for a lot of these problems is an identity system. And that's also what ArcBlock is, which is super cool. But moving
Yeah,
on to the
exactly.
final.
So if you look at
Oh yeah.
into that, I would say like 90% of those in the past, 90% of those kind of government blockchain use case or enterprise blockchain use case, 90% of them are not actually tied to blockchain. They're actually can be solved with the DID and verifiable credentials. You don't really need a blockchain for that.
Same, yeah. I agree. If anything, the past jobs I've worked at, they had like a feel of not really government, but it almost felt like you were working with the government, the way they were set up. And basically every issue, whenever I ran into one, I was like, ArcBlock could fix this. Not the blockchain side of it, but the identity side of it, where you need people to sign things, verify things that they did this, who looked at this, who approved this, who changed that. And I feel like for a while we thought the blockchain would be the solution for it, and the blockchain can do some of that, but not all of it. With that being said, then since we're talking about applications, whether they be just consumer apps or government apps, the final question I have, which is also for the answer you give is for everyone in the chat as well, because there's people curious what maybe they should be building or what maybe we should be thinking about building. So, what is one application that, say you weren't working on ArtBlock full time, that you would be working on, you would be trying to build? How would you want to build it? So somebody down here, either one of us, can be inspired and try to go build that. If there's anything off the top of your dome, and or just make it up on the fly, whatever you feel.
Yeah. So if you just ask me one question, one applications, I think that's going to be a very hard question for me because I feel that I have like tens or hundreds of applications that I think that could be built and so yeah, but basically I think there's so many potentials that you can build with a blockchain, with a especially today's in imagining in the future that tokenization could be legalized, and there's so many potential that you can build. I just give a couple of them, right? Coming into my mind, right? So first of all, I think there's something that I would honestly say this is something that we didn't do really well, but I think could somebody in the community can build that is if you look at our diagram, there's a important component that we're planning to establish is called a creator studio. So that is something that exactly 1 year ago, I think that is super important and super valuable. It's totally feasible, totally possible to build that in ArcBlock with a greater user experience. But for a lot of reasons, so that project constantly gets kind of pushed back, and nobody mentioned that, and so that's a shame. But I think something like a fully decentralized application web app that for creators to host their content to build their the content include audio, podcast, anything, right? So this is definitely something that can be built, and actually this is like a low-hanging fruit because we have PageKit, DiscussKit, a lot of those kind of base component already there. You don't need to do, usually if you want to build this kind of applications, you probably spend a lot of time to thinking about how to host those media, how to upload those media, how to create this kind of user interactive, forums or those kind of features. But with ArcBlock, all of those are ready. They are reusable component. You can just compose them in a better way to make that as a space for the creators to host their media and also build up their fan base, right? Their user base. And if they want to charge their users, there's payment kit So that is basically all those components are ready, but we need to, but to make that as a real ready to use software package for the creators, there's still a bunch of work to do. Um, Honestly, I think this represents one kind of the builders in our block is those builders who not necessarily building everything from ground up, and they're probably even not the best software developers that know how to write the low level code. But if they know the real users requirement, they know this group's user requirement, and then they know how to smartly recompose existing blocklets and turn them into like a full package, one package, right? Imagine, for example, if I um, come to one of the YouTubers, and what they really need is they probably say, "Hey, I need a website that can host all those kind of my videos on the YouTube, and then I need a place for charging my users. I want to be able to kind of uh, communicate with those users." So they that is their requirement. They know they need this, but they don't know. Okay, I need to have a discuss kit and need to have a media kit. I need to put them together. I need to use a page kit to create this page. They don't know all of those, right? So that's created the needs for these kind of builders that they understand the needs from the end users, and they also understand how to leverage the existing components to help them quickly build up this composition of the you know this kind of end-to-end user application. So this is actually one type of building. I believe this is one of the advantages that you can use ArcBlock to do it. Eventually, I believe the builders are going to have different type of builders. Some of the builders might say, "I'm just a very good software developers. I'm great at making some certain component really easy to use or really fancy, looks nice, but I don't know how to find the end users, a bunch of customer, how to do the customer service." Then I can focus on building this reusable component. I just created like tens or even hundreds of those reusable components. Each of those components do one thing and do it super well, and and then somebody else can pick this up and to creating something else, right? So this is one type of builders, right? The other type of builder is what I said is I probably not building all those components, but I'm very good at understanding what the market really need, what the user really need, right? And I can recompose what the existing in the market to build this kind of full package software. This is yeah. So this is one of the application that I'm thinking. Yeah, yeah, it's a low hanging fruit, and but even it's low hanging fruit to make that really good experience. That still takes time. Okay. Of course, the other things I'm definitely thinking the decentralized social network is still something. So a lot of people who are familiar with ArcBlock know that I'm a big fan of social networking, and so I always wanted to have this purely fully decentralized social network applications. But we even try to build something, but we haven't been able to build that yet. I think right now, today, it's easier than before, easier than ever that you could build this type of new type of social components. And I think this is definitely one of the directions that is worth to try. Yeah.
Okay, okay, gotcha. So Creator Studio and Social Network. I'm gonna be honest, I'm already trying to do the social network. Us and D-Bros, shout out D-Bros in the chat. We're gonna try and do it with Todai. Just give us a little bit more time, guys, but we're gonna try to do it. In regards to the Creator Studio, I totally agree with you. To some extent, I kind of have something like that set up with Oblivion and Trinity, but for somebody to recreate it, they would literally need to know what I know. So they would need to piece together these blocklets and then set them up accordingly. So I feel like having a total package creator studio where you're basically able to just download one app, one blocklet, but then from there do everything you would want as a content creator. Like I also could see how agent could play a part in this, where agent is tied in and you're using agent to create generated videos or generated content, generated images, even maybe generated conversations, generated blogs, so forth. So I feel like that combination of a total creator studio where you can produce content in the studio, sell your content, and you're not dependent on some third party platform like YouTube. But yeah, that's definitely a low hanging fruit, and I feel like you could make it with the blocklets as they are now, but somebody needs to come in and polish it and then make it a totally functioning app. In reference to that, because I know Debro and myself were curious to try to see like, is there stuff we can take from the blocklets without taking the whole blocklet into the future? Will ArcBlock open up the blocklets a little bit more, like the payment kit and so forth, to where we can take some of the code or like reference some of how it's being used to plug it into directly, like say if I wanted to plug it into a social network app like Todai or something. And that'll be my last question.
Yeah, totally. And the reason why we developed in this is as a blocklet, we want to encourage the reuse, right? So the so that basically means that each of those blocklet, we try to make them as a reusable component that you can just wrap it, right, and use it in any new project. So there's basically like 3 different ways when you see a blocklet that you want to reuse it, right? There are 3 different ways that you can reuse that. The simplest way is you just include that in your applications, and imagine, for example, this a typical this kind of reusable component is like DiscussKit. DiscussKit itself is a very powerful beast, right? It contains forums,
100%.
blogs, document, bookmarks. It's like a beast. It's a lot of features are built in there, and the goal for that is you can just include that in your applications, just like a library, and then you expose whatever you need it to be. And so it serves its own URL. It's just you can just blend in your applications, but whenever it need to go to the forums, it's basically handled by the DiscussKit. This is the simplest way to reuse a blocklet, right? the second way to reuse a blocklet is you use the interface and features that are exposed in that blocklet. So, for example, so this is the example is that for I still use DiscussKit as one of the examples. In if you look at the ArcBlock homepage, you can see the